Perhaps you've experienced this without ever realizing it. After a long, exhausting day, you step out into your backyard and notice that your familiar visitors are still there. A sparrow perches on the fence. A cardinal lands on the branch outside your window. The chickadee that usually rushes to grab a seed lingers just a little longer today. You might think it's only a coincidence, but scientists have discovered something remarkable. The birds in your backyard don't simply remember where to find food. They also remember the people who regularly share their territory. They recognize faces, routines, and even the smallest changes in your daily life. They don't know if you're sad or going through a difficult time, but they know that something is different. The person who usually opens the back door every morning steps outside much later today. The one who often walks around the garden now stands quietly instead. The familiar smile has been replaced by silence. To a bird, those changes are important signals. And when those signals appear, something unusual begins to happen. Some birds keep their distance, but the ones that know you best often choose to stay closer, watching you a little longer as if trying to understand what has changed. What's even more surprising is that researchers believe there's one sign birds often notice before anything else when your mood changes, and it isn't your face or your voice. It's your routine. For backyard birds, life is built around patterns. The sun rises, the dew disappears, insects emerge, and the familiar human steps outside at the same time every day. After weeks or even months of observation, they have memorized your schedule as part of their environment. The chickadee knows when you open the back door. The sparrows know when you water the garden. The familiar cardinal recognizes the moment the feeder is refilled. Then one day, everything changes. You come outside later than usual. You skip your walk around the yard. Instead of tending to the flowers, you sit quietly on the porch. To us, it may seem like an ordinary day. To a bird, it's a sign that something in its world has changed. Researchers believe birds constantly monitor small changes in their surroundings to detect danger and locate safe sources of food. That same ability allows them to notice when a familiar person breaks a daily routine. And when that happens, the feathered visitors in your yard don't simply fly away. Some of them do something rather strange. They begin watching you more carefully, almost as though they're waiting for the next clue to decide whether their familiar world is changing. Even more fascinating is the fact that backyard birds don't simply notice changes. They remember the people who create those memories. For many years, scientists believed birds only remembered where food could be found. More recent research suggests something far more remarkable. Many backyard species can recognize individual humans and hold on to those memories for a very long time. That means the chickadee visiting your feeder each morning doesn't just remember the feeder itself, it remembers the person who fills it. The familiar cardinal doesn't simply know this garden is safe, it knows who usually lives there. Every time you step outside, water your plants, or quietly sit on the porch, the birds are watching and adding another piece to the memory they've built. That's why they quickly notice when you have an unusual day, but they don't all react the same way. Passing birds may simply leave without a second thought. The regular visitors, however, the ones that have spent months around your garden, often stay a little closer. They perch on familiar branches, watch your movements, and seem to wait for things to return to normal. And that's when an even stranger behavior begins to appear, one that has led many researchers to believe the bond between humans and backyard birds may be deeper than we once imagined. Once birds become familiar with a particular person, many species don't easily change their habits. That's why you may notice certain special visitors returning even when you haven't put out food. They aren't coming for the seeds, they're coming for the routine you've shared over many days. The chickadee still lands on the same branch. The cardinal still visits the old fence. They watch the garden as though searching for the familiar scene they've known for so long. To a bird, a safe place isn't only filled with trees and food. It's also filled with things it can trust. That's why, when you return to your normal activities, your familiar birds are often the first to come back. But something even more remarkable may be happening. Some birds seem to remember more than the garden itself. They seem to remember the person who helped make it feel safe, If you've ever been away for several days and then returned home, try paying close attention to your backyard. You may notice something interesting. Some birds appear almost immediately, while others take days to return. That may not be a coincidence. The birds that know you well often recognize your return before the feeder is even full. The back door opens at the familiar hour. Footsteps cross the porch. A familiar figure walks through the garden. Those tiny signals tell them that everything is normal again. That's why a chickadee may appear just minutes after you step outside. A familiar cardinal may land on its favorite branch, as though you had never been gone. Researchers believe birds learn to connect familiar sights and sounds with a safe environment. When those signals return, so do their routines. But perhaps the most touching discovery is another one entirely. Some birds don't remember you for just a few days or weeks. They may hold on to memories of a familiar person for far longer than we once imagined. Part 6. What birds really remember. Many people believe backyard birds return only because of food. But if that were completely true, they would quickly forget a person once the food disappeared. The reality is different. Many bird species can remember safe experiences within their environment. They remember familiar branches, secure hiding places, and the people who have never frightened them. Every time you quietly refill the feeder, water the garden, or simply sit outside, those memories grow a little stronger. Over time, your presence becomes part of the world they know. Perhaps that's why some birds still return to the same branch and glance toward the porch, even on days when you bring no food at all. They don't know your name, but they remember that this was once a place where a gentle human made them feel safe. And that small memory may be the invisible thread connecting you with your feathered visitors each day. After everything we've discovered, an interesting question remains. If birds can remember people, recognize routines, and identify safe places, who are you in their world? The answer may be simpler than we think. You are not the owner of the garden. You are not simply the person who brings food. To the familiar birds that visit each morning, you have become part of the landscape they know. Like the old fence, the large tree in the corner, or the favorite branch where they rest, your presence brings comfort and stability. That's why, when you step outside, some birds don't seem frightened at all. They continue singing, perching nearby, and going about their daily lives. Perhaps they don't know whether you're happy or sad. Perhaps they can't understand the stories of your life. But they know you've been here for a long time, and that this garden remains a safe place. And perhaps that's one of nature's quietest and most beautiful gifts to people who love birds. Maybe the most beautiful thing about backyard birds isn't that they can recognize us. It's that they remind us how much small acts of kindness matter. Every morning you open the door, scatter a handful of seeds, or simply sit quietly beneath the porch, those moments may seem ordinary to you. But to your feathered visitors, they become part of the familiar rhythm of life. They don't know your name. They don't know what you're going through. But they remember that this was once a place where a kind person lived and where a safe garden waited for them. So tomorrow morning, when a sparrow lands on the fence or a cardinal settles onto its favorite branch, take a moment to watch. Perhaps it isn't only looking for food. Perhaps it's looking for an old friend it has remembered for a very long time. And if you've ever had a bird that seemed to recognize you and return day after day, share your story. Perhaps that special connection exists in more gardens than we realize. And perhaps, even now, a small bird outside your window is waiting for you to step outside.